Commitment isn't scary because it's hard. It's scary because we think we're going to fail, which is then going to tell the story that we are unacceptable, we are unlovable, we are unworthy. And most importantly, if we make a commitment and we fail, it gives us the opportunity to let ourselves down. And for me, there are a few things that are more corrosive to my soul and my motivation than committing to something big that I know is valuable for me and then not following through and letting myself down. To the point that it's easy for us to stop making commitments to ourselves because that feeling of letting ourselves down is so painful. Today in the podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how and why there is that fear of letting ourselves down that is so powerful, and how we can use tapping to overcome it so we make commitments to ourselves, so we take more action, which means we create lives that we love. This is Gene Montrestella, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to date from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 660, originally aired April 30th, 2025. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time you're getting a chance to join me. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. It is so interesting as humans, the way we manage commitment and the way we think about commitments to ourselves. That there are times in which I can make a commitment to myself to do something that is useful, to do something that is valuable, to even do something that I enjoy. And there are still times I don't get around to doing it. But if I make that commitment to my accountability partner, there are times in which the only reason I do that task is because I know I have to report back whether or not I did that task. And it's so interesting that we can be in a circumstance where commitments to others are more powerful than commitments to ourselves. And there are a number of really good reasons for that. And it starts with the sense of resistance that we have. So at the top, I mentioned the fact that there are times in which we are not going to make a commitment because we are afraid we're going to let ourselves down. And so we have resistance to making a commitment. And so all that resistance is, and the way I like to think about this, is resistance is nothing more than the reins that a rider is holding on the back of a horse that is pulling the reins back to slow the horse down. And typically when a rider is trying to do that, it's doing it because they're trying to accomplish something specific, or they're trying to keep us safe. The horse is going too quickly. The terrain is too rough. We might notice danger up ahead. And so we're pulling back on those reins. And so that is all the subconscious mind is doing, is when we have resistance to take action, it is not thinking about the action. It is not thinking of success. It is only thinking of how to keep us safe. Because the subconscious mind creates resistance because it doesn't want us to fail, because failing is painful. It doesn't want to waste energy. And this is a subtle reason that there is this resistance inside of our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind knows I have a limited amount of energy today. And if I'm doing something that might not work out, that's going to be a giant waste of energy, so that when something more dangerous or more important comes up, I don't have that energy. So if there's a fear it's not going to work out, it pulls those reins and it prevents me from taking action. My subconscious mind doesn't want me to be judged by others. There's this primal sense that I want to belong to the tribe. And if I do something foolish, or I do it incorrectly, or I fail publicly, it's afraid that others are going to judge us. And lastly, it is afraid that we are going to let ourselves down and we are going to judge ourselves. And so anytime it thinks that I am going to have an opportunity to fail and then beat myself up, there's a really easy way to prevent myself from failing so I can beat myself up. And that's really simple. I just simply don't take action. So it resists, it pulls the reins back. And so that's the reason why, and again, I use this analogy of reins being pulled on a horse, because that's what it feels like inside of me. That like, I know I should be doing this task, and it's like I'm being pulled back and away. And the way I'm pulled back and away is I'm pulled into distraction or other tasks or getting tired or whatever the amazing tool, the brilliant tool our subconscious mind uses to want to hold us back. And it's really interesting when we're looking at the sense of failing and judging ourselves, because the fear of failure and the fear of judging ourselves, the fear of looking at ourselves as not being good enough because we failed, is not something that we start with as humans. I mean, I want you to think about a baby learning how to walk, a toddler learning how to walk. That they get up and they try and they literally fail to the point that they fall over. And they're not looking around to see if anybody noticed. They're not looking around to see if they're judged. They're not feeling bad because they fell down. What they do is they kind of chubbily roll over and try and push themselves back up, and they try to do it again. And they try to do it again. And they try to do it again. And we no longer do that because we have spent a lifetime of having hopes and having those hopes dashed because of inactivity or making failures or making mistakes or not following through. We've had a lifetime of taking action and perceiving, whether or not it's true, people are looking down their nose at us and they're judging us. And so it makes it so it's hard for us to move forward. And so, in order to keep ourselves safe, what we do is we want to avoid failure. And like I said earlier, the easiest way for me not to fail on a subconscious level, we know this isn't intellectually true, but the easiest way for me not to fail is not to try. First you don't succeed, lower your standards. Boy, is that an unuseful way to engage with the world. But that's what the subconscious mind is doing. And there is a specific reason that our subconscious mind is so harsh as it's pulling those reins back. It thinks that if it's really, really harsh, it's going to accomplish a number of things. Number one, if it's really, really harsh, it's going to scold us into doing something better. If it's really, really harsh, it's having the opportunity for us to judge ourselves before we give anybody else the opportunity to judge me. If I think, if I do this and I make this mistake, everybody's going to judge me, I'm just going to judge myself right now as not being able to do that, and I don't take action. The other problem is when it comes to that sense of self-awareness and making commitments to ourselves is we understand our intentions and we understand our hopes. And what this does is this creates a measuring stick that we are measuring ourselves against. When I see someone else doing something in the world, I think, oh my gosh, look at them doing the best that they can. When I look at myself, I'm not going, oh my gosh, look at him, he's doing the best that he can. I'm going, I really wanted to do this, and this was the plan, and I didn't follow through, and these are the mistakes that I'm making. And so I am judging myself off of my expectations and my hopes. I'm judging the people around me based on what they are actually doing. Rarely, particularly because I don't know people well enough, because they are other people inside of their own heads, when someone does something, I'm like, they only did 70% job on that. I look at what they did and I maybe see how they could do it better, or maybe I give feedback to it, but I'm not judging them in the exact same way. And so, since we're in this circumstance where we know if we fail, we're going to scold ourselves and beat ourselves up. We know that if we fail, we're going to judge ourselves harshly. We know that there is this fear that if I do this wrong, other people are going to judge me. I know that I'm not going to live up to my best because I'm always making mistakes. It's very simple. We just don't make commitments to ourselves as we engage with those things. So, what we're going to do right now is we're just going to do a little tapping to show what it is like, how we can engage with this idea of becoming more comfortable with making commitments to ourselves. And I encourage you to tap along with me. Just tune into making a commitment to yourself and just notice where there's any resistance to that. And maybe there's a specific commitment. Maybe there's something that you really want to change right now. So tune into that action that you want to take. Tune into that thing that you want to do. Take a nice easy breath. Tap on the side of the hand, and if you're in a place that it is comfortable and safe, I'd encourage you to tap along with me out loud, repeating after me. I recognize the fact there is a part of me that is afraid. It is afraid to make commitments to myself, because if I make a commitment to myself, I am giving myself the opportunity to let myself down. I'm giving myself the opportunity to fail. I'm giving myself the opportunity to have hopes and then have those hopes dashed. And there are a few things emotionally more painful than the sense of betrayal that comes from feeling like I let myself down. And I appreciate the fact, the resistance that I'm feeling, the reins that I am pulling back are just trying to keep me safe. They're just trying to keep me healthy. But I also recognize the fact they are working way too hard. Because I recognize in order for me to be healthy, in order for me to be safe, it requires me to take action. But in order to be safe and healthy, I don't have to take perfect action. Every success I have ever had in my life has been the consequence of incomplete and imperfect action. I give myself permission to know it is possible for me to approach taking action the exact same way an infant becomes a toddler and learns how to walk. I give myself permission to know it is okay to stumble. Because in the stumbling, I learn lessons. It's okay to fall. Because sometimes I'm falling forward toward my goals. I give myself permission to trust that I don't have to take perfect action in order to be safe and healthy. And most important, I am allowed, and it is safe for me to make commitments to myself. And this does not mean I'm saying I'm always going to be perfect following through in those commitments. Instead, I am saying those commitments help me to build my way towards creating a life that I love. Perfection is not required. Gentleness with myself is useful. And that gentleness is not about giving myself a pass, but instead about understanding I am okay and safe being imperfect. I give myself permission to be able to make commitments to myself today. Nice big deep breath. And I have a feeling, as we tapped our way through this, if you have past moments where you let yourself down, those probably came bubbling up. Write those down, tap on those right now, engage with those old stories. Because the subconscious mind has a negativity bias, which means it is going to remember the things that went wrong in order to keep us safe because it wants to learn from those wrong things, but it gives too much weight to them. I live in a 6th floor walk up, which means that I have to walk up 5 flights of stairs to the 6th floor every time I return to my apartment. And in the almost 12 years that I have lived here, where I've walked up and down these stairs tens of thousands of times, I have no recollection of most of those journeys. I've done it twice today. I don't remember doing that twice today. But I do remember the times that I fell. I do remember the times that I tripped. All 3 of them very, very vividly. And if all I remember are the failures, then I have a disproportionate understanding of walking up and down the stairs. Same is true for the commitments you've made for yourself. As we tap through that, I'm sure the times that you let yourself came bubbling up, but there are lots of times that you didn't let yourself down. You just don't remember them because you did what you were supposed to do. Take those memories, tap on them, get them clear, be gentle with yourself. And again, being gentle isn't saying I'm not taking responsibility. I can take full responsibility and still be gentle and kind with myself, recognizing the context. That's what being gentle is. So any stories that came bubbling up, make sure you spend some time and clear those, because if you're carrying those with you, if those stories that say, if I commit to myself, I'm going to fail, those are going to be those reins pulling back, preventing you from doing that in the future. So I hope you enjoyed that little tap along and that little bitty process inside of there. If you know someone in your life who would appreciate it, please be our ambassador, pass it along. Our marketing budget is your word of mouth. I know it's cheesy for me to say, but it's really true. I received a resource from a friend of mine over the weekend saying, Gene, I think you're going to love this thing. I haven't touched it yet, but the fact that he thought of me made a huge difference in my day, and I can't wait to dive into it later. You passing this along will have the same effect on someone else. The other thing that we like to do in every single episode, because we're now over 660 episodes as we're chugging along with all of this, is I got this idea from the podcast Secretly Incredibly Fascinating from Alex. Basically what he does is he spins a random number generator to recommend an episode. I did the exact same thing before we started today. The random number generator gave us episode 240. And so if you go to tappingqna.com/240, it will take you to an amazing little episode on how you can use tapping to create healthy boundaries and to maintain those boundaries so that you're able to navigate your day doing what you love. Again, tappingqna.com/240. As you're looking at the screen right now, you can see the entire archive of the Tapping Q&A podcast. Click on that link, dive in, enjoy some of the content. I look forward to talking with you and tapping with you again real soon. Bye-bye.